Perfect, thank you. All right, I'm Maggie. If you've never met me, hi. Welcome to the virtual cooking classes. I did a couple last week, I did 2 yesterday, and this is my second one today. So I'm starting to get the hang of teaching to a computer. I know you guys are all behind there, which I really appreciate all of your support. But it's not just me in class today, it's also my daughter, Lucy, who will be helping out. So the way that this is set up is, sorry for this, but this is so you can see a bird's eye view, so you can see me cutting, and then you can see us cut on, and then Lucy also has an iPad over there, so she's manning the chat room. So if you have a question, please feel free to chat, and she's keeping an eye on that. How come I can't see the control screen where I can see where the chat's going on? Okay. All right, so a couple things before we get started. We are going to talk about some things that you want to do before you start cooking. So it went away. So number one, it's okay. You can keep an eye on it right there. So number one, Lucy, what's the first thing you want to do before you start cooking?
Definitely, you gotta wash your hands.
Wash your hands. What else do we need to do before we start cooking?
Mise en place.
Mise en place. And can you tell everybody what mise en place means?
Mise en place means to get all of your ingredients out before you start cooking, because if you don't, it'll be really stressful.
Yeah, and you want to make sure you have everything for your recipe, and you want to make sure everything's prepped before you start the cooking process. There's a couple of exceptions to that, and we have one today, actually. Then I always have a trash bowl. It can be any bowl, but I always have a trash bowl on my workstation, and this cuts down on trips to the garbage disposal and the trash can. And then also another really important thing about cooking, and we'll be doing that today as much as we can, is you want to clean as you go. That also takes a lot of stress off of you, because there's nothing more daunting than a day of cooking and then you turn around and you still have like an hour's worth of dishes to do. So if you just clean as you go, it makes it a lot easier. So as a teacher, one of the things that I love to do is I love to share my tips and tricks that I have for chopping and other little tips that I have for making your time in the kitchen more efficient. We all, well, not right at the moment, but when things are normal, we all are lacking in time. So this helps your time, this helps cut down your time in the kitchen. So again, if you have any questions during any of this, please chat to everybody. And the first thing we're gonna do, I'm just gonna make sure everybody has their ingredients. Heads up, I'm doing half the recipe because I made one ahead of time, and I don't need 2 full frittatas for the 3 of us. So I'm doing half the recipe, but when I read the ingredients, I'm gonna read what you should have. Hopefully that makes sense. Are there any questions over there in the chat room, Luce?
No, can I read the ingredients?
Sure, so the first thing we need
is 4 tablespoons olive oil.
Yep, we need olive oil and divided. Divided means it's used in 2 different places in the recipe. So the next ingredient
is 5 ounces of Italian sausage removed from casing.
So I love the Trader Joe's Italian chicken sausage. It's mild Italian chicken sausage. I was more panicked about not having that in my freezer than I was about having toilet paper when all this started happening. So I typically always have it on hand because I use it in a lot. Now, remember what I said about mise en place, that you want to measure everything out before you start cooking. Well, I'm gonna make a little exception, and we're actually gonna start browning the sausage right now. So I have my induction cooktop over here, and I am going to heat it up to medium high to brown my sausage. I guess I could we can get it started right here. So I'm gonna heat it up to medium high.
Don't do this at home, guys.
And the induction heats up really, really quickly. So for a stainless pan, if you're on gas or electric, It usually takes about 30 to 45 seconds. This heats up faster. And I touch the pan. I don't really have much feeling in my fingertips.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it at home. But this is already hot enough for me to cook the oil. So when you're searing or sauteing, you always want your pan hot first. Then you get your oil hot.
And then you put the meat.
And then, that's right, then you put the ingredients in. And you always want just enough, hold on, not yet. You always want just enough olive oil. So I'm gonna be using like a little bit less than you are because I'm doing half the recipe. But you want just enough olive oil to lightly coat the pan. And you want very little pooling when you tilt the pan to the side. So it's just enough to lightly coat it. We're gonna let it heat up a second. And I'm gonna show you how to tell when oil is ready. It's gonna thin out a little bit, but also it'll start to ripple or kind of shimmer in the pan. So that is ready. So we're gonna put this in very carefully. Put that in. I'm gonna put it closer to the pan so it doesn't splatter. Okay, and if you can hear that nice sizzle, if you can take that to the sink, that would be great. So I'm gonna kind of flatten this out a little bit to let it brown. So we want to brown the meat, and that's also searing the meat. And what we're doing is we're bringing out all of the natural sugars in the meat and just creating more of a depth of flavor. So you don't want to short yourself on this process. So I'll turn it up to high. Now, the thing that I have found that people lack the most when they're cooking meat is patience. So we want to trust that this is doing its job. So it's not going to be ready to turn over until it unsticks itself from the pan. So that's actually unsticking itself from the pan, but we want it to be a nice deep golden brown also, and it's not there yet. So we're gonna leave it. So we're gonna be patient with that, and I'm actually gonna transfer this back over here until we're ready to look at it again. So the second ingredient is a Yukon Gold potato. I love Yukon Gold potatoes. They are so much richer than like regular russet potatoes. We eat them a lot, don't we? Yep. So I'm gonna show you how to cut this. Pretty easy. I need a little bowl. I'm gonna grab a bowl. Didn't get one out. So don't worry, you know how potatoes brown when you cut them and leave them out for a while? Don't worry about that because we're browning it in the pan and it's going inside of the dish. So we don't have to worry about that. All right, I'm gonna look at my sausage. I'm gonna kind of flip it a little bit.
Show them what it looks like.
That's a great idea. Okay, so it's browning. So I'm gonna let it brown on the other side. All right, now we're gonna do our potato. So I'm gonna cut my potato in half. I'm gonna turn it onto its flat side, and I'm gonna cut my potato into planks. Now, potatoes are starchy, so they're gonna stick to the knife. So you wanna be real careful. So we're just gonna cut it into little planks, and then we're gonna turn the planks to the side and cut them into strips. Now we want these potatoes fairly small because we want them to cook quickly in the pan because they are gonna cook. We're gonna brown the meat first, remove it from the pan, then add the potatoes and start to cook those. And those are gonna take a little while to cook, but the smaller we cut them, the faster they cook. So we are gonna cut these. Now we turned our strips to the side and we've diced them. We're gonna dice them. So I'm just gonna do half this potato. You're gonna do the full potato. I'm gonna do half of the potato because I'm doing half the recipe. Lucy,
yes.
Any questions over in the chat room over there?
Nope.
All right, so hopefully people will respond to this. There are 3 reasons why I wanna cut evenly, cut things evenly, dice evenly, cut evenly. There are 3 reasons. Can anybody tell me one of the 3 reasons? Or all of them, if you're feeling smart, feeling head of the class-ish today. All right, cut that. Any answers over there?
Nope.
Oh boy.
So it cooks evenly.
So who was that?
Mary.
Mary, so it cooks evenly. That is one of the responses. I think we have another one. We have another one? Then we have two. Okay. All right, two more reasons. Anyone?
Well, somebody said so it cooks evenly, and then the other one said it cooks more evenly. Oh, so you can get even distribution throughout the dish.
Yeah, so that's a good, who was that? Who's that smarty pants? So you can get even
Mary.
Mary, 2 out of 3. So you can get even distribution throughout the dish. So your goal for every dish is for each bite to taste the same.
There's another one.
What is it?
For overall design / food.
Who was that? Mary?
That was Trish.
Trish, that is correct. So we want, all right, so I got a little too brown on this, but that's okay. It does smell good. So evenness of cooking, distribution to the dish, so every bite tastes the same, in aesthetics. So well done, good group effort. So I'm gonna break this up. I'm actually gonna turn it off. And I'm gonna break this up. And we're gonna add the potatoes into the pan, even though we've got all that brown stuff on the bottom. That's okay because we are going to deglaze the pan. I'm gonna add a little bit more oil though.
Okay.
Hold on one sec. So we just wanna break this up and I'm gonna transfer this to a smaller dish. And you know, you do not have to use Italian sausage. If you don't have to put meat in this at all. You could, but if you did want to add meat, or a different meat, you could put bacon, you could put pancetta, you could put prosciutto in there.
We have to make another one with bacon.
Yeah, we do have to do one with bacon. All right, so I'm going to transfer this to a dish, and we're going to set this aside to be put in later. So far we've browned the Italian sausage and cut the potato. Hopefully your ovens are all preheated to 375 degrees. Can you make sure that our oven's at 375? All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add a little bit more oil to the pan. I'm gonna distribute that a little bit.
Are we gonna add these?
Yep, we're gonna add the potatoes. Okay, so that's actually gonna add a lot of good flavor. All right, so now add the potatoes really gently. So kind of get it close, and there we go. All right, okay, so I'm gonna kind of put these in one layer.
Should I put these in?
The oven is, yeah, thank you. I'm gonna put that in the sink. So the cooktop's on medium high to brown the potatoes. So I'm gonna let them brown on one side. I'm gonna flip them, and then we'll turn it down to medium or medium low so they cook slowly without burning. So I'm gonna very carefully move this. Okay, so those will continue to cook. I have my sausage.
Somebody said, Trish said, did you add extra oil?
I added that other amount of oil. So I used about 1 tablespoon to do the sausage and 1 tablespoon for the potatoes, but you will probably do 2 because you're using a bigger pan. Okay, so I'm just gonna check on these. You're doing well. All right, so next, what we have the next 3 ingredients are
Swiss chard, garlic, and scallions.
So these are all going to go into the frittata, into the pan at once, so we can measure them all into one bowl. So I'm going to show you how to cut them. So first we'll do the scallions. So this is a scallion, also called a green onion or a spring onion. People get confused with this and think that these are chives, or that this is a leek. This is the flavorful part. The white part is actually the onion. So we are going to cut off, you want to make sure they're clean, and then you're going to cut off the root end, and then using that rocking motion of your knife, you're just going to cut it into really thin rounds. All the way up through the light green part. Feel free to add more scallions if you want. If you don't have scallions, you can add onion or shallot or chives, something that's going to give it that oniony bite. Okay, so again, these are all going to go into this bowl. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to do, first I'm going to check on my potatoes. All right, so these are browning. You see how those are browning? I'm just going to flip them over.
It's splashed on my arm.
Are you okay? No, I have like, no hair on my arm from all the grease in the oven. All right, so back on a medium high after I flip them. And then maybe after another minute, I am gonna turn it down to like medium-ish. All right, so our garlic. This is a garlic, what's this called? A garlic
clove.
Garlic clove. And what's that called? Hold it up.
It's called a garlic head.
A head of garlic. So a lot of people have confused this for a garlic clove. It makes a difference. So we're gonna use a clove of garlic. So I do this a little bit differently. Using the side of your knife, tilted that. Side of your knife and heel of your hand. We have a question.
Where and how do you store the garlic head?
Okay, storing the garlic, a cool, dry place. I actually store mine in a cabinet, and people always ask how long it lasts. It depends on what stage it is in when you get it from the grocery store. You want it to be rock hard. Mine usually lasts about 2 to 3 weeks. But never store it in the refrigerator. Okay, so, all right, I'm gonna turn these guys down to medium. Now, I crush and mince my garlic at the same time. When you crush garlic, you're releasing all the oil in the garlic and you're just boosting the flavor of the garlic. And then when you mince it, you're cutting it up. So we're gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone. To get the skin off, use the side of your knife and the heel of your hand, and with the blade facing away from you, give it a quick pop. Now, I'm not trying to crush it right now. I'm just trying to crack the skin so that the skin comes right off. Okay, there we go. Now, you can get the already peeled cloves. They just don't last very long. Never, I got a lot of bad spots, so I'm gonna cut that off. Don't use, if you have jarred garlic, throw it away. Jarred garlic is packed in oil and all kinds of additives, and it doesn't even taste like garlic. I always say it tastes like garlic breath, which is not what we want. If this trick I'm gonna give you is pretty fast, but if you need a faster solution, Trader Joe's sells already chopped garlic in the frozen section, and it comes in like little cubes. It's like a little mini ice cube tray. And every cube is a clove of garlic, and you can use it right from frozen. But this is a pretty quick trick. So garlic clove towards the end of the cutting board towards the end of the counter. I'm going to turn my knife over. So the blade is facing up. I'm using the back portion of my knife, like right here, okay? So I'm coming straight down on my garlic clove. It is not a cutting motion. I'm almost like shaving it, okay? So I'm just coming straight down. And if you use fresh garlic, you don't have to go through it anymore. It's already all crushed and minced for you. If you want to get through it more, turn your blade over and use a little semicircle cut and just go through it with a semicircle. All right, next, well, first I'm gonna rinse my hands because they're sticky from the garlic, and I'm gonna rinse my knife, so hold please.
So how to get the garlic smell off your hands is you get a stainless steel something and you lather your hands up and then rub it against the stainless steel thing.
Yeah. So to get the smell of garlic off your hands, wash your hands with soap and water, and with the lather still on your fingers, rub your fingers against something stainless steel. What can you use instead of Swiss chard? That's a great question. Any green. You can use spinach, you can use arugula, you can use kale, you can use mustard greens, collard greens, so really any green. And ultimately, you can always leave it out
Lettuce?
if you want to. No, lettuce will probably, it's so watery, it's not very flavorful.
Said every green.
Almost every green. So yeah, so those are just a few options. All right, so there's a couple ways to cut chard, same way you would cut kale. You can fold the leaf on top of it, like over onto itself, so it's in half. And then you would just take your knife and go right up along the rib or the stem. Okay,
Just like magic.
Just like magic. So we're gonna keep that. The other way is if you have a sharp knife, you can just get right under the leaf and go right along the rib or the stem. Okay, that's another way to do it. So I'm gonna do a couple more.
But if you don't have a sharp knife, go get them sharpened.
That's right. You got sharp knives make all the difference. Make sure life a lot easier. I'm gonna stir my potatoes. They're looking good over here. Thank gosh, we're not feeding you guys. After that, went into repair.
Whoops.
All right. So I'm just gonna get that off right there. Okay. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of stack these, and we wanna cut these into smaller pieces. So I'm gonna cut, oh, that was attached. So I'm gonna kind of stack and roll them a little bit. And then using that rocking motion of my knife, I'm just gonna cut them into smaller pieces.
Looks like kale from the camera up there.
It does look like kale. All right, so now I'm just gonna put all of that in that bowl. Okay, so next, I am going to add all of this to this pan right here. So I'm still on medium, okay? I'm still on medium heat on my cooktop. So I'm just gonna add it all in. And you mind taking that? Thanks. And we're just going to stir it around. Okay, so we kind of want to get the potatoes under, we want to steam them a little bit in those greens. And we want the greens to wilt. So that's not going to happen off the heat. So I'm going to put it back on the heat, medium heat, and then we'll just keep stirring it. But it'll wilt, it won't wilt as much as spinach, but it's still gonna wilt. It'll wilt down. All right, so yes.
Do you still sharpen your knives at the knife store by JT's?
I do. I get my knife sharpened at the Knife House on 48th Street in Indian School. If you live in Arizona, it's a great spot.
Yeah.
Yes, let me hear here. Yeah. There you go. You got it. All right, so I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna just wipe this down a little bit. So we are done with the cutting. So next, we're gonna get to cracking our eggs. I am gonna give you a tip on cracking eggs, but let me just get this all wiped up. Okay. So,
See? What?
seriously. All right, now let me wipe it again. Okay. There we go. Now we're gonna crack our eggs. All right, Lucy, you wanna help me with this?
Sure.
Okay. So what I do, I know if you're scarce on paper towels, don't worry about this, but the important thing is that you do wanna crack your eggs on a flat surface. So that decreases the chance that you're gonna get shell in your eggs and that you're gonna pop your yolk. We don't need to separate our eggs in this, but if you do need to separate your eggs, usually it's important to keep the yolk out of the white. So always crack on a flat surface. And if you crack it right, it doesn't happen every time. But and I do it on a paper towel just to cut down on the mess, because usually I can just go scoop all the shells up with a paper towel. So if you crack it, well, that one, it did kind of indent, but then we'll just do it again. And hope that we don't get shell in there. But if you do get shell in there, Lucy, what's the trick?
Get the shell and scoop it.
So if you get shell in your ingredients,
Just a bigger shell.
yep, you take the already broken eggshell and then scoop that little piece up. All right, I'm gonna stir. Lucy, you wanna crack those eggs?
Sure.
Into there. Yep, crack all those eggs. Now you guys have 10 to crack. I am only cracking 5, but I'm gonna stir all this together. And my Swiss chard is wilting down nicely. And then after we crack the eggs, we're gonna go wash our hands. All right, will you scooch a second? I'm gonna show them what the Swiss chard looks like. So our Swiss chard has wilted down quite a bit. So not quite there yet, but almost there. Just wipe it on the towel. There you go. That's okay, I'll do the last one. Oh, I got shell on there, so I'm gonna scoop it up, and there it went. And there it goes. I see shell going in there. There, got it, saved it, saved the day. Oh, there's more. Hey, what are you supposed to use? You just told the trick. Okay, she's gonna scoop out that shell. Now, when she's doing that, I'm gonna go wash my hands and go get the cheese because we have to grate the cheese.
It's not coming out.
All right, getting the fontina cheese. Need help? Your hair's gonna get in there. Got it? Get it all out? Yep. Okay, so go wash your hands. And we'll put this away. I'm gonna get the, wipe it down. Okay, and now we're gonna grate our cheese. All right, so when I grate my cheese, I usually get a piece of parchment paper and grate it on there. And Luce, can you hand me the grater? Sure. Thank you. I'm still stirring that, all right? Okay, so this is my grater. If your grater is as sharp as my grater, it is the #1 cause of cuts in my kitchen. So just be really careful. I'm using fontina cheese. You can use whatever melty cheese you want. You could actually put even Parmesan, Asiago, or Romano cheese. But I love fontina because it's super melty. So Lucy, when we have cheese, should we buy it already shredded or should we shred it ourselves?
Shred it yourself.
Yes, do you remember why? No. So when you get cheese already shredded, it has additives in it that keep it from clumping. And that takes away from the flavor of the cheese and it inhibits melting. Okay. All right, so.
We have Trish said shred yourself because no press with that too.
That's correct. Yep, so when you get shredded cheese, it has stuff in there that takes away from the flavor and the melting. So we always shred ourselves. And that goes also for grating and crumbling your cheese too. All right, so I've got my cheese. Oh, and just a tip on washing a cheese grater, use cold water to get all the cheese out first and then give it a good wash with hot water and soap. If you use hot water right off the bat, you'll melt the cheese in there and it's a lot harder to get out. Okay, so that's going over there. And then we are gonna get a whisk. And we are just gonna whisk all of this together. We're gonna whisk that. I'm gonna move the pan in front. And then I'm going to add back in the sausage. I'm going to give it some black pepper. And then I'm going to give it, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of kosher salt. So I always use kosher salt when I'm cooking. Can you add the cheese in there too?
Yeah.
So you can just pick this up with both hands and dump it in there. So I always use kosher salt when I'm cooking. Kosher salt comes in flakes and not crystals. So it dissolves into your food, and you have faster, you have less of a chance of over salting. So personal choice. I think we have a question, Luz. Are you sure? I just saw it pop up.
Yeah. It still says shred yourself.
Can you go down? Go back in and see.
No question.
No question. I thought I saw a question pop up. If you just asked a question, can you ask it again because it's not popping up in our chat? All right, so my pan is still on medium heat. And I just added my salt, my pepper. I added my chicken back in. So now, and you can just set that whisk right on this parchment paper. Thank you. And then I'm just gonna pour the egg mixture in. And we're gonna stir it around. So everything gets combined. I'm actually gonna turn it off right now. Stir it around.
Should I take a sissy?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we'll stir it around, get everything evenly combined. So you just wanna make sure that whatever pan you're using is oven proof. You don't wanna put a pan in the oven that's not oven proof. So everything is nice and stirred. And now I'm gonna put it into my oven for about 15 minutes, but you just want it to be set. So you'll know if you jiggle it. If you have any questions at all about whether or not it's set, you can put a knife in the middle. And if you see any liquid in there, it needs to cook some more. So I am going to put this in the oven. I'm gonna move this. We'll take this to the sink. And then I'm gonna show you what it looks like when it comes out. All right, this is it. This is your finished frittata. So this was in a cast iron skillet, so I used a stainless steel skillet for my other one. Both work perfectly fine. And you can serve this with some avocado on top. You can serve it with some salsa. You can put some hot sauce on it. Or what's your favorite condiment to have with an egg dish?
Ketchup.
Yeah, that didn't come from my side of the family, but yes, she likes ketchup on her eggs. So think of this as a blank slate. You can use whatever you want in this frittata. So you could put mushrooms in there, you could put broccoli in there, you could put whatever you want. Sky's the limit. It is great for breakfast, brunch, with a little side salad. It's perfect. We've had it for dinner before, so really it's pretty versatile, both in ingredients and time of day that you can eat it. So are there any questions that you can think of right now? Anyone? Well, if you're thinking of a question, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate the support. If this is not your first class, thank you so much for signing up for another one. If it is your first class, welcome, and I hope we hope that you enjoyed it. And tomorrow there will be more classes on the calendar for next week. I'm going to be doing a skillet tamale pie, chicken fried rice.
Question.
And then, yes, there's a question.
Can you transfer to baking dish if you want?
Yes. Yeah, you could absolutely transfer this to a baking dish. That would work just fine. But if you guys are cooking, take a picture, tag me, WhiskAwayAZ on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, WhiskAway USA. Take a look at my calendar for the classes next week. Saturday, I'm gonna have a family-friendly baking class. So we're gonna be doing carrot cake cookies filled with cream cheese frosting. So that'll be a good one. But if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me. You will be getting a video of this tomorrow. So unless there are any other questions, we're gonna sign off until next time. So thank you for coming, and bye from me and Lucy, and have an awesome afternoon.